Hello, my name is Ramiro Valdez and I'm an antique collector, and this is one of the items that I ran into the Goodwill. Luckily, it did not get damaged further than this right here tear. I wanted to learn about paintings, and because I didn't know nothing, this was my first painting that I saw. And I saw somebody looking at it, and they put it down, and another person looked at it, put it down, and I looked at it, and then I saw the tear, and I put it down, but then, I had second thoughts, and I took it home. After I researched this item, after a couple of weeks, I just happened to take one of my historical books, and I was always reading about the great American painter. It struck me that the paint, it was very similar to what he used in his paintings, and that was the beginning. And sure enough, it's turning out to be that I was correct on where I was going with it. And I found out a couple of things that I found out about this painting was that I learned from other people telling me what to look for, was that this has been overlapped for the second time, which means that there's overlapping, which means that it wasn't in this frame. So this is not the original frame. The original frame has been lost. This has been refolded into a different frame. As you can see here, there's not quite right, and over here you see it's right. They took it and they started over here at the bottom, and they overlapped the painting over the top. Another thing that was exposed was this a signature in this corner, because a line of the signature, or the ending of the signature, exposed something under this corner, and then that exposed these numbers. That explains the numbers here in the corner, which is a 9455. So this gentleman here happened to be E. Merck, hidden on this right corner, and this is the date that he claims this to be his personal belonging. 9455, April 9th of 1855. He was already a professional painter, so this is not his painting, obviously, because it's not a professional painting, and he is a German painter, not an American painter. So this 1855 statement says that this was in his possession in April of 1855. Then we found out from another source that another painter, professional painter, painted a painting similar to this one in September of 1854, a few months before this German painter claimed this painting. So he himself, the painter's name was Francis William Edmonds, and he painted a real big, a professional painting, and it's almost similar to this. And he called it Taking the Census of 1854, because he was making fun of the census. Now, Francis William Edmonds was a banker slash painter, not a painter slash banker. So he was in it more for the money and for making fun of things. And he made paintings where people would talk about. So he wasn't an original painter of original things. He was more concerned with selling his paintings. And so Sir Francis William Edmonds painted this in a bigger form. He could not get the eyes or the hands, so he does not claim this to be his painting. There's no way he could claim this, and at this time he was also a professional painter, so he could not own or lay claims to this painting. Now, we know for a fact that if you look up Francis William Edmonds Taking the Census of 1854 painting, you'll find that it looks very similar to this. Not everything that's here is on his painting. He took away the easel right here, which depicts that the painter actually lived in this house. He took away the easel, put in some kits, and made fun of the census, and put two feather pins here, and he put George Washington up here. And the one thing that he did do that he made a mistake on was keeping the same dial and the same pointer pointing to the same place, because that's very important. And then I'll show you in a minute why that's important. So Sir Francis William Edmonds was a kind of a painter that would come out with something every so often, like every year or two, and they would ask him where to get the idea, and he wouldn't say anything about that. But I think now we know where he got the idea. He actually got it from this painting, because this painting is obviously older than 1855, and so Mr. William Edmonds does not have a leg to stand on, because he's not a professional painter that would paint this painting here. So, or not say that he was a professional, but he wasn't a very detailed painter like this gentleman right here. Even though this is a starter painting from a young artist, we could tell that the young artist, right, painted this, and we're gonna verify what time frame this setting is from, because that will tell us exactly the year of this painting when it was made. Now we know that when we started researching, when I started researching the painting, and in order to find out what the setting, what year the setting, we look at the items and we figure out what year these items were made, or what year these items were at play. The clock was made in 1817, so that tells us that this painting cannot be older than 1817. But the feathered pin right here, it tells us that it was outdated by the late 1820s. So the feathered pin says that this painting is probably not older than 1829, and the clock says it's not earlier than 1817. But when we look at the clock dial, a lot of painters use that too, to point to the year of when they make this painting. And so the clock dial is pointing to 20 minutes past the hour, or 22 minutes past the hour. But that's okay, because it's hard to put that dial just right, especially on a starter painting so small. So, but the painting itself is going to depict the year because of the items and the people that are in here. So when you look at this and you say to yourself, you know, who would paint something like this around the 1820s? And when you do the research, you'll find out that George Caleb Bingham was the only one that was painting people and the way they lived in the early frontier. So, and then when you read up about George Caleb Bingham, he was very, very well detailed, and a person that could detail something so fine and so small. And this depicts his style and his way and his talent right here, because these characters here are so well drawn out and so well done. Even though he's not a master, he hasn't mastered the light here or mastered his paints, but it's the way he painted each one of these individuals is just outstanding. It's just so. We look at the story of George Caleb Bingham, because this painting is pointing to a George Caleb Bingham early painting of Bingham. So when we look at the story of the Bingham, we've defined that in the town of Franklin there was a cabinet maker who would come around every early spring, and he would take the orders down, and then so that he could do them before the winter sets in. As you can see, the window over here and the trees depict like early spring, and the fireplace running and the window open. You could say that that's an early spring setting. Now another thing is that around early spring, also they would send the census taker. Okay, and the census taker would do the same job almost as the cabinet maker, because he knew the people. But we're gonna figure out whether this man is the census taker or the cabinet maker in a little bit. And I guess we'll get down to that. I guess we'll get down to it right now. That way we can get that out of the way. The clock here is pointing to 22 minutes past the hour. That clock is saying that that man is not a census taker, because census is only taken every 10 years, 50, 40, 30, 40, 50, 60. And the dial on the clock says, no, it's 21, 22. So that's a cabinet maker taking down his cabinet, what he's gonna produce for this family. So we know that's a cabinet maker, and that it's early spring, but we don't know if it's 21, 22. But when you read the Bingham family history, you'll find out that his mother was a German descent, kind of pretty size, and that she had books which she would teach the girls to read and write because she was an educated woman. We also know that Bingham at that time, Bingham's father was a constable, and he was a judge, and he had a hotel, and everything was going good for him. He wanted to get into selling tobacco, and here you could see him making plans for what he needs and telling the cabinet maker what he's going to need that year. So it kind of depicts the Bingham story, and it falls into place because this little baby right here looks like a little girl, and the Bingham family, they had their last daughter in September of 1821, and here she's about 6 months, so this early spring of 1822. This baby is dating this painting to be early spring of 1822. So if the Bingham, all of the Bingham story falls in place, this is actually a painting. As you can see, the painter actually lives in this house because he's got his easel and he's got brown paints on there saying that he is actually painting this right there and then. And so this starter painting depicts a young artist, and because it's 1822 and Bingham was 11 years old in 1822, and this is his by description, this is his painting, because by detail, Bingham would plaster the back, and if you touch it, it is plaster, because he wanted to show all originality of how everything looked, how everything felt, how everything was at the time. The clothes, the old clothes, the expressions, and so this here, obviously, to me, is George Caleb Bingham, the age 11 in 1822. Spring of 1822, and Mr. Francis William Edmonds, right, is going to be challenged by this because he used this painting to do his painting, because obviously by the date on here, this is much older than his painting, and his painting is at the New York Gallery, if I'm correct. So we want to know, right? We want to know. Did Mr. Francis William Edmonds use this painting to make his masterpiece in 1854, taking the census? It's a historical thing, and this is historical. And so we would like to save history, and for that reason, we should look into it. And I thank you very much, and I'm happy to have saved this.